We have talked a lot, Stugotz, in the growth of social media, of how good basketball has been in the modern age, of knowing how to connect the humanity of its stars to the audience, to dominate social media, which isn't the real world and isn't other media in the mainstream, so that basketball stars and stories and soap operas are something that even if the regular season is uninteresting, you will captivate us in the postseason because we're all wondering, hey, Jason Tatum, is it now that you take that last leap with the best team that you've ever had, having the best regular season it's ever had in a weekend conference, and we're all looking at the Eastern Conference the same way. Don't trust Cleveland. Oh, the Knicks are interesting. Look out for the Sixers, and what's wrong with the Bucks? And last night, the Bucks, after playing really poorly for the last 2 weeks in a way that would make no one trust the Bucks, even though in the Eastern Conference there's only one team that can say what I'm about to say. Yeah, Boston, your two best stars, we've got two who are better. There's only one team that can say it. Philadelphia can't say it. Miami can't say it. No one else can say it. It's only Milwaukee. Your two stars, our two stars, ours are better. And Milwaukee last night swamps a Boston team, and then Giannis gets hurt. And Giannis getting hurt is how fragile everything at the top of this conference for the last 5 years has been. Between Milwaukee and Boston and Miami, and who's going to take this conference. Now, I don't think anybody is better than Boston this year, but I would trust Denver more in a series against Boston, not just because I've seen them do it, but because that giant in the middle is somebody who changes every basketball game that he's in, and soon in a couple of years, Wembanyama will ruin this all, because I've heard that giant say, that guy blocked my shot 4 times, and I told him after the first one, you're not going to do that again, and then he just kept doing it. And that Wembanyama is going to grow. But the legacy of the league and the storyline, Stugotz, are all right here in real time. All-time greats are fighting. Joel Embiid is trying to get back into this race. Everyone fears him if he gets back into this because physically, there's no stopping that. There's no stopping Giannis. Except for what happens last night, lower body extremity. That is something you don't want. That team, that whole thing has been built on a flimsy foundation all year. Doc Rivers has been making excuses all year, and that's the one thing you can't have happen, because even if Lillard goes down, that guy in the playoffs is something that could drag your whole team into the Eastern Conference Finals.
The interesting part with the East is, depending on how the play-in games work out, you have fascinating first-round matchups for the first and second seed in your conference, because Boston is either going to be tasked, if things remain the way that they seemingly will, with either Miami or Philadelphia. And those are teams that you don't necessarily want to go up against in the playoffs. Obviously, Miami has their
Boston
flaws,
would
which
love
we've documented.
Orlando. They would love the
They love
Knicks.
anybody but
They
those
love the
teams.
Pacers.
They like
the
anybody
Hawks.
but Philadelphia and Miami.
But
and
I
then
don't
Milwaukee.
I don't think they should fear anybody.
No, they shouldn't fear anybody, but you'd much rather play another team than those matchup nightmares in the first round. And then you look at it, after that, 2 through 6 is separated by 3 games. 3 through 6 is separated by just a couple of games. All of these teams can change position in the final few games of the year. So it's so interesting to see the way that shakes out and which teams are going to get what path through that postseason.
There's so many interesting things about the NBA right now, and Dan is right. You have legends of the games, and they're just fighting to get into the postseason. Fighting to be one of the 8 seeds when you talk about Kevin Durant, LeBron James, Steph Curry, guys like that. And then you have Jimmy Butler in the East. You have Joel Embiid in the East. But now, because of what happened last night in Milwaukee with Giannis, you want that 7 seed in the East, don't you? You don't want the Celtics, of course. You would much prefer getting the Milwaukee Bucks now.
Yeah, I think that the Philadelphia 76ers are scarier than anybody is letting on or paying attention to right now. A healthy Joel Embiid with a healthy Tyrese Maxey, they haven't had that in a while. And now that they're putting it together, Tyrese had 52 the other day without Joel. And Joel put up big numbers last night. It's like, I think that team needs to be more feared as a whole because, like you said, with Greek Freak going out last night, it really makes the East a little more wider. You feel me? And I don't think that you saying like the changing of the guards, you think it's here right now. I think Steph Curry and Draymond Green and Klay Thompson have that Patrick, excuse me. I'm sorry.
All right, you know what, Juju, $10 because you got $5 from earlier.
No,
You never,
Wow.
you never paid the $5.
I got you right now.
You got 10. You're still carrying cash.
Yeah, absolutely.
Huh.
You got to know.
My man.
You feel me?
Yeah.
You feel me? But I think that how Steph Curry is playing right now, I think that the same way we just all last year, Lamar, oh my goodness, Josh Allen, oh the offseason is going to be so crazy, Odell on the Ravens now. We did not pay attention to Patrick Mahomes and the greatness of the Kansas City Chiefs, and they proved themselves once again. I think that Steph Curry got that in them still.
The problem is if they end up getting the 8th seed and have to play against Denver, it feels like it's going to come to an end very quickly. Because they don't have anybody that can guard Jokic.
Okay, let me do this, Stugotz, because you rarely get the opportunity that we presently have, where the people listening to this have all the backstory on what I'm about to say. The Golden State Warriors changed the way the entire sport has been played. They have left the sport different than they found it. That's the legacy of this dynasty, and this is the last embers of it. Last night, they go into Los Angeles and swamp LeBron's Lakers that don't have Anthony Davis.
Of course.
The conversation I just had about do you have the best two guys? Philadelphia can summon an argument for, our second guy, we like him more than Jaylen Brown. And Embiid's better than your first guy. When I'm looking at what's happening in this league, and I am telling Juju Gotti and others, Amin and everyone else, and history goes against me here, Stugotz, when I say this. These young teams, when I'm watching Minnesota, whether you think OKC is knuckleheads or not, I am seeing a difference in youth and athleticism that LeBron, oldest player in the league, still looks like so many of the LeBron things, but he's not as fast and never has been as fast as Maxey. As someone like Maxey, where you're like, holy Gilgeous-Alexander can go anywhere he wants and no one's going to be able to do anything about it. And it's going to be the closest thing that I can see spider webbing into a different sport than what Jokic is doing, where Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is changing everything, and then he's got one of those guys, Chet Holmgren, who may or may not grow into the second best guy. And you're watching it right now. The young people are coming for the old people. The Timberwolves are on the Clippers court yelling at him by winning by 18. You guys are old. You, Kawhi Leonard, I see you dragging that anchor on your ankle like you have been for 10 years. You used to be us. When you were with the Spurs, you used to. But now the young people want the league. And now, here, when we've watched this part, Stugotz, the Warriors changed it for everybody. I remember watching and being like, wait a minute, what do you mean on a 3-on-1 break? They're going to the corners. They're not going for the layup. They want 3 points, not 2. They're going to change how all of this is done. That team wins multiple championships, and we are watching all-time greats as LeBron tries to grab Kobe's legacy. We've been watching this for 15 years, and now the playoffs arrive, and nobody believes that the young knuckleheads can take out the experience of the old guys when the old guys still look old to me. It doesn't look, Stugotz, like wisdom and experience to me. To me, it looks old when I watch the young guys. And then there's Denver out there, boring as hell, but will beat everyone over the head with a 7-foot club.
Are they old guys, Denver?
No.
Okay.
No, they're young.
No, they're in the middle.
All right.
Bruh, I think that just last year, 2 years ago, the Memphis Grizzlies were so cute. Whoop that trick. Whoop, it was so cute. The young guys was taking over and the Warriors tapped that ass. You feel me? So it's like, it sound good, big bruh, but show me in the playoffs. All this is cute in the regular season, but I still watch the immaturity of some of these teams. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Jalen Williams at the end of certain games, brother, they still have immature moments. So show me in the playoffs.
But this is, to me, Stugotz, the reason this is so exciting is because it's a team that revolutionized the sport and belched out Kevin Durant out the side because Draymond's furnace is running now. Steph Curry is crying into his jersey because the Draymond thing is out of control, and we'll either ride that furnace to the finals where he'll kick a dude in the nuts and get ejected and he'll score 32 in a Game 7. We're going to ride that until it burns out, and it's going to burn our eyes, and the whole thing's going to sting. And can you take it from us? Because what I've told you is the single best thing that I have seen, better than Mahomes, better than anything, watching the aesthetic experience of what is great about sports excellence over the last 15 years. The most beautiful thing I have seen anywhere in sports is late in a game when the 72-win Warriors are changing the sport, they're down 12 and the leader's backpedaling because he's terrified of what's coming this way. A desperate champion protecting what it's earned. Holy, I'm scared of that. But we will either watch it flame out this year, likely, because it runs into too many young pieces, and then there's Jokic, and what the hell are you going to do?
Well, I was going to say the numbers of it, Dan. The teams that are already in the playoffs who have a good chance of advancing to the NBA Finals are mostly the young teams. The older guys are just fighting to get into the playoffs. But I'm with Juju on this. I think if Golden State plays Minnesota first round, that is a terror. I could see Golden State beating them in 5 games.
I don't know about that, Stu.
I mean,
now Karl Anthony Towns is clear for 5-on-5. He's going to probably make his way back at some point close to the playoffs. Like, that's a dangerous team. Anthony Edwards is the truth. He's that next guy. We look at, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. We look at the Nuggets. We look at the Celtics. It's like, wait, have you guys seen Anthony Edwards play? I know it's on the West Coast. I know it's in Minnesota.
Tony,
I know it's far away.
This is why I think the league is about to be taken from the old guys this year. This is the year. Jokic is kind of a bridge. Is he young? Is he old? I can't tell.
he's old.
He's like middle. He's like middle generation.
That's why I asked the question. Tatum feels old.
But look, man, OKC has a chance to be here for a really long time.
The most fascinating part is there's actually 3 generations right now, right? Because we're talking about the old guys. We're talking about LeBron and Steph and KD. Then you're talking about those next level, which is Giannis and Embiid and Jokic, who are all of one age before that young group. And they,
the really
right now,
young group,
right? They have a chance to solidify their legacies. So Embiid, who's 30, needs to get through the East now when you have it up in the air like that. That's why he comes back and plays this year. Giannis wants to get another championship. This Boston Celtics team, if they flame out and don't get to the finals, you could see that core change. So in the West, we have the play-in game to thank for all of this. Because in the Western Conference, you're going to have essentially Game 7 matchups between LeBron and Steph, between KD and Steph, between KD and LeBron potentially, because all of those teams are sitting there at 7 and 8. It is a fascinating time in the NBA.
And I think that with the Boston Celtics being involved in one of those teams, their late game immaturity, the late game one-on-one between the legs, fadeaway jump shot, that's going to come back to bite you at some point, brothers.
Think about the talent we're talking about, where I'm talking about the young people and Luka's middle-aged. Billy, can you get me the stat of the day music, please? I wanted the long version, but you told me it's too long, and I really did want the long version, but Billy says we've got to go the short version here, so here it is.
Start of the day, start of the day, it is your start of the day. Start of the day, start of the day, it is your start of the day. Start of the day, start of the day, it is your start of the day. Start of the day, start of the day, it is the start of the day.
I saw this stat, Stugotz, and I had to go and look it up because I didn't believe it. I am going to shock this room, I believe, unless Billy or Jeremy have already heard this stat, because I believe it landed in Marlins land the same way that it did for everybody. Are you guys aware of who the home run leader is for the Marlins since the year 2017? What Marlin, as baseball has used this raked town for profit as a brothel to get money, since 2017, one Marlin has hit more home runs total. It's 2024 in the last 7 years. Do you want to guess who that is? I think from the look on Jeremy and Billy's face, they already heard this stat, so it's less shocking to them. Giancarlo Stanton.
No way.
I was going to say Vidal.
I was going to guess
I was going to say Burger.
I was going to say Mike Stanton.
Yeah.
Not Brian Anderson, who comes in second, I think.
That's the worst part.
It's a stat. That's 8 years of
Jazz is about to catch up.
2 playoff appearances.
Well, Stanton leads with 59, and those were all in 2017.
Right.
Yeah, that's right.
It's since
one season.
They traded him at the end of the one season where he hit the 59, and no one's been able to pass him since. That's why it's such a punch in the gut.
I couldn't remember if they traded him in 16 or 17, so I felt like I wanted to say Mike. When did he change his name to Giancarlo?
In fairness, there was the COVID year.
Not enough is made of the question that Tony is asking. When did he change his name from Mike to Giancarlo? Because it's an asshole move.
Was like 16, 17?
No.
I'm looking it up.
No. That was, I want to say that was like 2011.
2012.
Did he changed with the uniforms?
2012.
After a trip to
that
Europe
long
in the
ago?
2011-12 offseason, he made it known before the 2012 season that he preferred to be called Giancarlo.
And it's like if I were to do that right now. If I demanded right now that this will become the Giancarlo Le Batard Show. Because
Well, it's his actual name. He was going by like his middle name, I think.
Don Carlo.
Little Mike Ryan Ruiz action happening.
Stugotz still has yet more players who connote prayer from earlier in the show. Lucy, you've checked out again. What's going on with you? I don't know what to do with.
You know what's going on with me, Dan.
Take me a little more through, because I have not seen the video that you produced from Iowa. You were there immersed in what was a symbolically giant sports moment that I'm going to say has never come to Iowa. Can I say that? When I say Caitlin Clark is the most famous American basketball player that there is of any gender, that Caitlin Clark, there is no more famous American basketball player right now. Can I say that you just experienced the height of Iowa mattering at sports in your lifetime?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think that's why I'm so sad, because that was kind of the last shot. Now, I do think that Iowa women's basketball will be good again. I think it's really awesome. You've already sort of seen Iowa's recruited better, the last 4 years because of Caitlin. But we'll never have, that level again, because you're not going to get a player like that ever again. She's generational. It's sad, but, I'm grateful. But mainly I'm just sad right now.
But you got it.
Yeah, but I will probably never see Iowa win a national championship in a major sport in my lifetime. Just based off the way that college athletics are trending, just based off Iowa is a smaller school. It's the second smallest school in the Big Ten. I don't know if that is still the same with the new schools joining, but this was sort of like the last opportunity for Iowa, and they will be good again. They have the number one rated player in California coming to Iowa. They will be good, but what Caitlin was once in a lifetime, and so I appreciate that. I will be grateful for this run. This will be my favorite team forever and ever and ever and ever and ever, but also at the same time, I really wanted to see them win a national championship, especially because I hate the stupid conversation going on around Caitlin that she can't be one of the greats because she didn't win a national championship. That's a dumb argument. She went to a national championship with less than any other, squad there. That's just dumb.
Lucy Rodine, Iowa correspondent.
Tony mentioned Stugotz. Iowa despondent. Tony mentioned earlier sort of how quaint it is to see the purity and innocence of sports emotion, where you just love this thing and you care so much that it makes you weep and breaks you for days. One of the things, and I have found a number of things fascinating about the seismic shift of the last couple of months, where I'm sitting in front of you saying what I think is a fairly impossible thing, which is the women had 4 million more viewers than the men. And I'm assuming, I don't know whether I have this right or not, but I'm assuming that there was probably more gambling money on the men. I may have this wrong, but I feel like gambling information would feel like it's stronger over there, and that the betting interest the knowledge would feel better. Maybe I have that part wrong, but
not in my house. Kate Martin, 13.5 points. Salute.
Yeah,
Okay.
but UConn felt easy. It started to feel easy, and I think a lot of money went on UConn.
All right, I don't know. Right now, I've got to admit ignorance, okay? I'm assuming that more people bet on the men, and so I'm assuming more people are watching a men's basketball game and gambling on it than a women's basketball game. I may have that totally wrong. But still, 4 million more people were watching the women. And what Lucy is articulating there, which I do believe is lost in the way that we've covered men's sports, is when she's talking about once-in-a-lifetime people, once-in-a-lifetime person came to my sports city. I feel like I'm watching about 9 of those in the NBA right now. Joel Embiid, fragile. What's the matter with you? Why haven't you won a championship? Hey, Tatum, Stugotz says you're as good as Durant. Why haven't you won a championship? It's time, even though you're 25 and you've been to 4 Eastern Conference Finals. You're still young, but the way that we do it with this searing needle, we've been chasing around LeBron. You're not good enough. Steph's better than you. And so we have not enjoyed, because we've been too busy chasing these ones. Jokic, you're boring.
Well, you can't have 9 once-in-a-lifetime talents unless you're a cat.
And Caitlin Clark, I mean, dare I say,
point.
she's a bigger phenomenon than all those brothers you mentioned. Like, she's a once in a like her talent, like, there's never going to be another Caitlin Clark, in my opinion. I love Juju Watkins, what she brings to the game, but she's a different type of killer. Like, you feel me? So Caitlin being in that city, in that state, I think you just got to be happy it happened. And whatever the saying is, be happy it happened and not sad it's gone.
In 1 year, Caitlin took down Kim Mulkey, Dawn Staley, and Gino Auriemma. Like, she's a generational talent. We won't see something like her again, and thank God we get to continue to watch her in the W, but her range, the way she's able to move the ball, like, she's generational, and that's so cool to see people kind of attach themselves to that and finally, give women's basketball a chance. And Caitlin opened the door, and she deserves all the credit for that. I think she'll go down as one of the most influential basketball players of all time.
And I think it's definitely going to transfer to the W, because I think all of this hating and all this rivalry between her and Taurasi and Stewie, that's going to be lovely to watch, and so much attention is going to be on the W. I promise to God, I shed tears watching all the coverage that the W and all the women's college basketball is getting, because I've been a supporter for so many years, and it's always just been laughed at by my homies or whatever. Now we are all watching it, and I'm so proud to say I live in this generation.
Juju, how many of those $4 million extra that the women got do you think were spending time in that space? Because I believe there were a lot of people who were just coming over for the bustle of it. What's everyone making such a big deal about? But I would imagine, as I was watching it, I don't know how much I can say about what I'm about to say here, but one of the documentaries Meadowlark is making right now, the start of all of this.
Usually, if you don't know if you can say it, you err on the side of caution and don't
Right.
I'm not
say
going
it.
to
check on it
do
during the
that.
break,
We've got
check on it,
people
and
will
then
see
we'll
that
call
Bimmel,
people.
people will see that we'll have documentaries out here shortly. But Martina Navratilova is at the center of sort of like ground zero of where some of this started. Where if you're a woman and know some of the history of sports in this country, what we just witnessed seems impossible. Like, this country is going backwards in Arizona, where it's just, okay, never mind, don't care about the woman's body, not in charge of it, the state is. To see this in sports, right? This is so interesting to me, Stugotz. We talked about this. During the bubble, you thought the men were leading. It was not the men who were leading on social justice. It was the women, obviously, with fewer means that were leading at the start of 2000. To see what has risen in this country, in this sport, in this America, around this, the strength of it. You guys tell me right now, you said it's a generational talent. It will feel like that emotionally for a long time, but she's at the start of changing all of this. There will be more. The freshmen are coming. Like, the sport is now getting competitive and has opportunity, and Juju Watkins can exist, and maybe she won't be the best ever, but they're going to keep getting better now that we will invest in all of it and the strength of it, seeing it come to sports with a different attitude, Stugotz, than, Billy says, they can't be generational talents if there are 9 of them. No, I'm watching 9 generational talents in the NBA that we've been chasing around. I'm watching that in the NBA because we're super critical about how we cover all this.
Iowa, South Carolina was the most gambled on women's basketball game of all time. Now, there was $2.72 billion bet on the NCAA tournaments overall, men's and women's. I don't have the breakdown yet, but I do know that's the most gambled on women's basketball game of all time.
Do you think I have it wrong in what I'm theorizing? Because I don't have any information on this. I just assume that when it comes to the men, if there is more information, there are going to be more gamblers there and also more casual gamblers on the men. Like, if there are a lot of people just getting to women's basketball without betting, that's not going to be the first game that they bet.
Well, I don't really feel like there has been more information for the men this year. Like, turn on SportsCenter, all the content and the coverage you're seeing is all of the women's game. I don't know how many of us in here could name 5 college men basketball players right now, but I bet all of us could name 5 women's college basketball players right now. So I don't necessarily think it's like a lack of information. I think people have tuned in. There were 14 million people that watched Iowa UConn. They probably felt a little more confident betting Iowa South Carolina.
But Lucy, he's not talking coverage. He's talking strictly gambling, and I do believe most people felt more comfortable just betting on UConn because it seemed easy. And they're more familiar with it.
They had more props set up for the men's side, like as far as like second half bets and all of that. They had more for the men set up for sure.
We've got, if only we had a sponsor. that had some expertise in this area that could get us an answer instead of me gasbagging for 6 minutes knowing nothing and then the rest of us gasbagging knowing even less.
So proud of you.